Relationships about consciously making choices every day to be committed to each other. We're not the same people 2 years, 5 years, 25 years, 30 years into a marriage. We're all changing. The only way the union stays together is we continuously prioritize each other and us as a unit, not just him or I, us as a unit through the ebbs and flows of life. Welcome to another episode of The Man Space. My co-host Marquese and I are absolutely delighted to week after week come into your space and create a place and a space that feels safe, comfortable, and natural for men to speak their mind, speak their heart, and show up in their total presence in a world that doesn't always give men that space. We expect men to be everything and create safe spaces for everybody else. But we, knowingly or unknowingly, deny that for men. And I am honored to take this journey of creating that safe place and space with my dear friend and my brother, Marquese. And Marquese, take this away because this is going to be an extra special conversation.
Awesome. Thank you. So again, welcome to the Man Space. It is my honor, my esteemed privilege, my desire, my necessity to introduce to you all, just look at the smile, my father, Marquese Hayes, to join us on today's episode. Really quick before my father starts, I am known around Chicago as Mr. Hayes. And it's because children that grew up with my children, who are now in some regards 32 and below, they recognize me and they appreciate me for the father that I've been because of how my children have turned out. My children, outside of their mother, of course, would not be who they are, except that I became the man I am and built community around them because of the man you see on the screen. So Pop, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for being with us.
Well, thank you for that introduction. And I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. And I would just say community is important in raising children, having that right community. I was with Little Walt, who's like a cousin to my kids, and we kind of raised him with some other kids in their families. And he just commented so much on how and what that means to him even today, having that type of background of community. So it's important.
I absolutely love the fact that you're introducing the concept of community markers, because we colloquially use the term blood is thicker than water, but the total statement is blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. It's the heart family, the community we build, the love and commitment we bring into it, and the choices we make repeatedly to be there for each other is what makes the community work. And even when it's blood family, when we don't make that commitment and choice repeatedly every day, that disintegrates. So talk to us a little bit about, as a dad raising kids, both sons and daughters, what propelled you not only to be a father to your kids, but bring the others in and bring a community in? Because by what you did, you have shaped the next generation of all the young people who are around you.
Well, that's a very good point. Growing up for me was community, and that's kind of where it all began. When I was a young kid, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, in that time frame, there was 4 or 5 mothers in the neighborhood, or that my mother knew, that trusted with everything. And so they would get their kids together with our kids. So it was 5 of us, and it was typically 5 and 4 other families as well. But on Friday nights, there was a movie program came on, and we would watch that as families. The mothers would be in the kitchen cooking up snacks and food, and all the kids are out, playing with each other, and games, as well as watching the TV and learning about each other. And as they got older, some started going to the football games and basketball games as they got into high school. But still, it was like 2 groups left. I was the middle group, but there was a younger group and there was an older group. The older group started, and then that continued for about 7, 8, 9 years in our lives. So we built some relationships. We were able to build relationships that today we call these people family, as you were saying. They're extended family, but we honor each other's blood family. That's how our mother raised us. And so that taught me, I learned something from that. And that is, so I still get together with those groups of people from time to time in that group. And it's just like, man, do you remember back home? Do you remember what it was for us growing up? And I want to include in that, you may know the comedian Sinbad. He also was in that group, his family, because they live right across the street from us. But that community spirit was, and on my street, it was a community spirit. All the mothers, all the fathers worked together to raise about 20 or 30 kids so that we would know we had value. We would know that we come from a stock of good people. We would know that we could go out and do anything we would set our minds to do. So it became very valuable for me to put that into Marquese's life and his siblings, and even our younger ones that we have at home still. That type of a community and setting, because there's warmth, there's love, and there's help.
That's good. I have that little experience that you talked about. I mean, I know the families you're talking about, and we literally, they're all my uncles. It's a no-brainer in terms of connection, and we've been able to do some similar things with our kids. Yeah, Cass, what's the next thought you want to pull out of him while we encourage other fathers to parent and to find healthier ways of doing it?
So I grew up in a community where war was all around, and our biological parents don't always get to be around us. And the grown men, wherever we were, stepped in to play that father's role. And something I find today in modern day United States and modern day society is what Marcus is describing, that the mothers are there for all the kids, the fathers are there for all the kids. Today, you can't do that because the kids will turn around and say, who do you think you are? You're not my dad, right? We're living in a time where biology is challenged, right? Even in workplaces, people will say, why is it personal for you? Why can't it be personal? Because you're somebody's child. And what happens to you affects all of us. And what advice do you have, Marcus, as a dad who has raised and been around in a community where they were all your children? It takes a special kind of man to do that, especially in a world where 1 out of 10 men are not necessarily good to kids and have predatory tendencies. And the rest of the 9 normally keep quiet. The problem is not the predator, but also the others who keep quiet. What advice do you have for young fathers and fathers of this generation on how to navigate that with almost like it's a sacred duty?
I appreciate that because it is a sacred duty. Fathers are supposed to be the head of the household. Fathers are in a position to set an example. I like what Keith was saying earlier, what you said earlier about Keith, how when he's a different person around his kids, and he is. But all 3 of his kids love him like mucho love him, because he do spend that time. He is an example of the ups and downs that life can bring, the challenges, but always maintaining a winning attitude and moving forward. I grew up, when Marquese and the 2 siblings were kids, on several occasions, we housed other families through that process. So that's the community I expect. We had rules, we had regulations that they had to abide by, and they were welcome because they knew where we were coming from. We raised them to believe in our children, to believe in God, trust God, live for God, live your dreams, your purpose, all of that. But we were also examples of chasing our dreams. He'd tell you the number of trips we went on, and we still take the day, even with the younger ones, to go chase our dreams, to see the hope that we don't have to settle for what someone else is willing to give us. If we learn who we are, what we represent, and keep our purpose in front, always chase your purpose. And I find that is one of the missing elements for a lot of young people, they don't know their purpose and they don't know who they are. It's not a good place to be. It's just not a good place to be because now you have no direction as to where you want to go in life. When I meet young people today, one of my goals is always to kind of help to find out where they're located at in their life. What are the dreams? What are the goals? And it's what they're doing, getting them in closer. So that's how I build a lot of those type of relationships because it's important. I've learned that many times we'll do something that has no bearing on what we really want from life. And we think we can't change that, but we can. And so that's what I liked about growing up with all these other kids. They had different dreams, different visions, and we would talk about those things from time to time, even as kids. And some of us did exactly what we want to do. Some did a little bit different, but we still have that communal relationship because it wasn't based on what you did or you didn't do. It was based on who you are and that you're a part of this community. And that's where the love flowed from.
It's really good, man. One of the things that you just said that I think is instrumental is there was a sense of purpose. There wasn't this, as Kath mentioned earlier, who are you to talk to me? It was normal to breed this collective dialogue. And the dialogue was around, so what are you up to? What do you want to do in life? What's showing up for you? And I think that for those who are listening, because I'm sure there's some women listening as well as single fathers who are like, well, this person's a barrier or that person's a barrier. The mother or the father, if you're not together, or if you are together, the other parent might be a barrier. But there's something unique about what my dad said that I found true in my life with people. When you take a genuine interest in who they are and what they value, and you're sincere around a purpose, not who's your boyfriend or who's your girlfriend. No, who are you and what are you really looking for? It takes on a different energy. People step back like, wait, are you sure? Are you real? But I feel like, Dad, the fact that the communities you grew up in, and that was the type of conversation that was had, and the same conversation you would have when we brought someone home, that it created a space of safety to say it out loud. So whether you're with someone and it's working or not working, you can still have meaningful dialogue that can corral something different out of them in a different energy versus allowing someone else to be the reason why you haven't connected. Yeah.
Yeah, Stephen Covey covers that best when he says, people don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. And in many ways, our culture has become a careless society about other people. It's all about me, 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 me. We always put me first rather than other people. But what I found to be true in so many cases in my life is when you put other people first, the rewards come back to you in ways you can't even imagine. And you're not really giving up what you think, you're actually gaining. You can't always see it right away, but you do see it down the road of life if you continue with that type of humble spirit.
It's good.
I'm loving what I'm hearing from both of you, both dads, father and son. And as the woman sitting here, what's coming up for me is a lot of times boys are raised in environments where they are rightly or wrongly believe that being the father is about command and control. The same way at work, I am the boss, I'm the CEO, I'm the CFO, all these male roles. And so I have to rule with an iron fist. People have to be terrified of me. Fear and command and control and punishment is not how we move society or we influence lives. And especially coming from a man's world as a career CFO, I see this around me constantly. What can men do to make that shift? Because being the patriarch doesn't mean you should be feared, because respect and trust cannot be bought with fear.
That's a good point. And so I'll answer that this way. See, from my father's generation, it was the fear. I mean, we got to go back and see how culture was, and I'm not going to get into all that, but that affected how they represent fatherhood in many cases, not all cases, but in many cases. But what I would say is we got to get rid of the pride. For me, it was I had to come to the understanding I didn't know it all. God, number one, for me, God had better answers. Number two, my wife knows something. She was smart. You know, his mom, she was a smart woman.
Yeah.
She had answers. So I had to lower my pride level, seek her wisdom on different issues, even though I began to understand the ultimate decision was mine. But I learned I needed her input.
Dad, really quick. The ultimate decision wasn't yours based on what you taught me. The ultimate responsibility was yours.
Right, that's true.
That's what you taught me. That's why I said it, because that's what you taught me. There's a difference.
That's true. It was the responsibility of making sure it got done, no matter who had the right answer. But getting the right answer was the most important thing. And that taught me I didn't know everything like I thought. Because that was the society I kind of grew up in, is we're always right. Just do what I say, not as I do. And I've learned it don't work. That's not the reality that God wants man to live by.
It's funny when you say that. What's coming up for me is my dad was a banker and everybody called him boss. And they will come home, they will call and they will ask to talk to the boss. And then I pick up the phone or I show up and I want to talk. I'm a kid, right? 10, 11 years old. And they're like, who are you? I'm like, I'm the boss's boss, so you can tell me. I make decisions for your boss.
I like that. And see, honestly, though, you brought up a good point. This is where fathers need to be with their children. I was on a call with somebody here recently on a Zoom. And oh no, one of my business partners. So he works out of his house a lot of the time. And a lot of times his kids and grandkids, well, his grandkids will come sit in his lap on a call and they say, who's that? It's my grandson. Well, no, he's not going anywhere. If he wants to be, he's going to be here. Let's just get on with the conversation, because he come to understand where real value. You see, we men are taught to go out and work and provide a living for our families. They never tell us that all the time we'll miss with our children in the process of doing that. But in my business that I'm a part of, and what we teach is just the opposite of that. You have to include your family. They are why you do what you do. But if you're excluding them under the cloak of work, well, I've got to work 60, 70 hours. No, see, that's what we could say, I want to make a change. This is not what I signed up for. I've got a family. What can I do different to make the realization of what I really want from my family to be? And that's me more home with my children and spending time with them every opportunity I get.
Dad, let me ask something really quick. This is a very interesting question. I think I know the answer for me, but I was talking to a buddy the other day, and there's a notion inside of what you said. There's a notion, at least in some groups in today's society, that as a man, my job is to provide. And if I don't have money, if I can't provide, then nothing else matters. What's your perspective on it?
That's a good question, man. My perspective, I've learned in two situations, with your mom and then with my current wife, Amber. That doesn't matter. What matters is what works in our family. How can we make it work for the good and the purpose of why we're building our family? That's what matters. And I know there's this thing right now, a lot of men can't make that mental switch because maybe the wife makes boogle bucks and he don't, and they feel these weird emotions that shouldn't even be there. Because what we get together, it was love. It was not about the money. You see what I'm saying? So culture has corrupted us in so many ways that it doesn't work for most of us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know, Kaz, in your society, I love talking about this on the show. Can you tell us what happens in your world when a man marries a woman?
So in my world, I'm Sri Lankan Tamil. And so woman is the head of the household, but it doesn't mean the man is subservient. Marriage is a partnership. It's two sides of the same coin.
I agree.
And because the woman is the creator of life, she gets to be the one who nurtures the family. And then the man stands side by side as her partner, but we are highly educated and we're all employed. And we go get a job, we build a house, and we get married later in life, closer to 30 or over 30. Women are when we get married. And when we get married, the man moves into our home where our parents are with us and they are there as the caregivers for our children when we have children. And then when we retire and our kids are working, they're still at home. 3 generations live together. And we turn around and take care of our parents because they took care of our kids. So there is no childcare, there is no old age homes, and 3 generations live together, and the protection is for the woman. And when two people marry, the two families merge. And so now you have a support system. And it's okay if the woman is making more money. Actually, the first female elected head of state in the entire world came out of Sri Lanka in 1960. As a 21-year-old management trainee, I had a 45-year-old male secretary. Would never happen in the West. That would be like crazy. And I also come from a society where women could take multiple husbands, which would freak a lot of people out even today, right? So to me, all of this is foreign, but I understand where people are coming from. I'm married to an American, but in our family, I was the primary breadwinner. But I also come from a culture where wealth is broader than money. Our knowledge, our wisdom is wealth. Our courage is wealth. Our health is wealth. The community is wealth. The food we eat, the air we breathe, Mother Nature that sustains us, all the human relationships, all of these are more important wealth. Material wealth is the last, and money is a fraction of that material wealth. So, because we approach wealth differently, providing is also handled differently. So, the man could be a farmer, the man could be the person who takes care of various other things, including being the teacher, and the woman could go run the country. He's still providing because he's creating wealth for the family.
Yeah, that's excellent. And I had to have this come out in the show because, as I was telling my friend, we have a misnomer around identity in our country, and it's sickening because I think it contributes. In fact, what led to that conversation was a family member of theirs had committed suicide, and he had had several years of unemployment. They don't know if that factored in, but we do know that suicide amongst men is much higher. Some of it's because we have identity crisis. We think we're defined by a singular thing, and without it, we don't have purpose. I wanted to bring in both perspectives, my father's and yours, to try to influence our audience to realize that's society. That's not necessarily your truth. So you're going to have to, as my father said earlier, figure out what works in your household. And if the woman is locked in, that's what she has to have, then let her. She may not be the woman for you. That's totally okay. And woman, if you're listening, consider what will make for a healthy long-term life with your partner so that you can be a CFO of the Chicago Teacher Union at 29 years old, broker deals for Warren Buffett. Like, you can do all these big things and not get lost in the sauce around the love of your life and the experience of your life and what you bring to others on this planet. Because I know in the West, we're often defined by roles and responsibilities, not the authenticity of who we are. And I think that's huge.
And that's a perfect point to bring this to a close, right? We will share with our audience the email address and website links to get a hold of Marquese. And Marquese, as we bring this to a close, based on what Marquese just said, relationships about consciously making choices every day to be committed to each other. We're not the same people 2 years, 5 years, 25 years, 30 years into a marriage. We're all changing. The only way the union stays together is we continuously prioritize each other and us as a unit, not just him or I, us as a unit through the ebbs and flows of life. Children will come, children will graduate, get jobs, move, get married, but the couple still has to take the ebbs and flows. And it's that commitment and knowing who we are as beings and not confusing it with what we do. What we do is informed by who we are. And who we are evolves based on the commitments we make. And it's not just to our spouse. We can make commitments to our business partner. We can make commitments to our friends. We can make commitments to our community. And we evolve together because that commitment is real. So as I encapsulate Marquese's message here, what is your closing thoughts on this? Because we would love to close this with your words of wisdom.
I would say community is important. We talked about the importance of it. But as a father, I would say learn to humble yourself. Learn, learn to get away from the cultural expectations of what they say you should be as a father. Because when we look at that here in America, it's all screwed up.
Yeah.
It's just off the wall. For me, that guidance always comes from the Word of God first, because that's example. And I try to teach that to all the children, and I try to live that as much as I can. But through that flows that love, the respect for the wife, whether she's in the home or out of the home, the respect for the children as individuals. One of the hardest things for me has always been when the kids got 18, 19, 20, my first thought was, you're on your own. But the reality of that is, no, they're never on their own. You're always there to support them, but that support changes. And we need to understand, like, so me and Marquese, we talk a lot of times, Dad, just what do you think? Oh, he's looking for what I think. I'm not trying to give him an answer. I just try to show both sides of the fence. Now you have to choose. And so it's that humbleness that you don't know it all. Try to understand where the other person's coming from and be willing to change if need be, because you're right, correct. And that is, relationships are always changing because we as individuals are always changing.
Good. I want to add in one last thought as we close, Dr. Kas. For the single fathers or single mothers, the man you're talking to that produced this guy, he didn't always grow up in his home. My parents didn't marry. He did this over the phone. So it's super possible, if you take a lot of the advice that he shared here today, there is no reason you can't fully show up, and no one is an excuse. You just find the way that works. Pop, thank you for always presenting the options, because even then, that's what you would do. Hey, son, this is going on. Here are the two choices. I think you should do X, but if you choose B, understand they'll have consequences. What do you think you should do? You always empowered me, and that's helped become who I am and offer the respect. So thank you.
You're welcome. And that's what we should do as parents. We should empower our children. We should empower our spouses. It's so important that we do that. Let them be who God created them to be, and not get in the way of that, but support that.